revised outlook projects 6% growth for globe and 2.5% for Nigeria in 2021. Nigerian Ports Authority to reduce carbon emissions. Oil prices rise on stronger economic outlook. U.S. stockpile draw. Plus, Asia-Pacific markets mostly higher, but shares in Hong Kong and mainland China lose ground. Details of this and more on Business Express on the network service of the NTA. And we are reaching you from Abuja, the nation's capital. I am Benny Adams, your guide. Good to have you join us at this particular point in time. The International Monetary Fund says it is now projecting a stronger recovery in 2021 and 2022 for the global economy compared to previous forecasts, with growth projected to be 6% in 2021 and 4.4% in 2022. The report presented by Gita Gopinath, chief economist of the IMF, projects Nigeria's GDP to rise by 2.5% in 2021 and 2.3% in 2022. The contraction for 2020 is 1.1 percentage points smaller than the projected in October 2020 World Economic Outlook, reflecting the higher than expected growth outturns in the second half of the year for most regions after lockdowns were eased and economies adopted to new ways of working. Moving on, the Executive Board of the International Monetary Fund has approved a third tranche of grants for debt service relief for 28 member countries under the Catastrophic Containment and Relief Trust, CCRT. Statement on its website said the approval followed two prior tranches approved on April 13, 2020 and October 2, 2020. It enabled the disbursement of grants from the CCRT for payment of all eligible debt service fallen due to the IMF from its poorest and most vulnerable members from April 14, 2021 to October 15, 2021, estimated at $238 million. This tranche of grants for debt service relief would continue to help free up scarce financial resources for vital emergency, health, social, and economic support to mitigate the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, subject to availability of sufficient resources in the CCRT. Debt service relief could be provided for the remaining period through from October 16, 2021 to April 13, 2022, amounting to a total of about $964 million. Professional financial institutions are advancing conversations on Nigeria's readiness for the fourth industrial revolution, which is believed to be accelerated by the pandemic. They say the work environment must be technologically compliant with global best practices for enhanced productivity, a position the federal government agree and promise to work with stakeholders to design initiatives that will promote sustainable growth.
The present administration has made tremendous efforts and progress in the digital transformation journey as a nation. A lot of resources and commitments have been invested in digitalizing public financial management processes, such as the Integrated Payroll Personnel Information System that we call IPPIS, the Government Integrated Financial Management System, GIFMIS, the Project Lighthouse, biometric identification infrastructure, such as the tax identification numbers, and many others. All these are reforms aimed at improving the overall fiscal conditions with respect to revenue generation and revenue optimization.
The Nigerian Ports Authority says it is reducing carbon emissions, stating that it has strategically primed most of its reform initiatives to align with the impacts of the global energy transition. Statement on its social media platform indicates that the NPA endorsed the directive with strict timelines for full compliance with the enforcement of the International Maritime Organization Sulfur Regulation on Nigerian waterways. The new regulations, known as IMO Sulfur Regulations 2020, mandates a maximum sulfur content of 0.5% in marine fuels globally. The NPA disclosed that the need for the change is to reduce the air pollution created in shipping industry by reducing the sulfur content of fuels that ship us. Moving on, the Africa Export-Import Bank, AfroExim, is partnering the Nigerian Export-Import Bank, NEXIM, to mobilize $50 million project preparation fund for Nigeria to provide technical assistance to bankable small and medium enterprises, including those promoted by women and youth, in a bid to consolidate on economic recovery process.
Nigeria recognizes that women's economic empowerment is not only important in its own right, but it is also smart economics, with the potential to bring about broad-based growth and poverty alleviation at the national level and state level.
Under this partnership, we wish to mobilize up to $50 million towards providing technical assistance to increase pipeline of bankable projects, particularly from SMEs, where the women and youth
Well, joining me is the financial expert. He is no other person but Dr. Chijoke Ikechukwu to discuss more on the $50 million facility export. You are welcome to Business Express.
Very much.
Well, with the IMF projecting Nigeria's economy to grow by 2.5% in 2021, what role can exports play, particularly in this era of the AFCFTA?
For us as a country, we have entered into the AFCFTA agreement without enough strength. Because our manufacturing capacity has not been at its optimal level. We can do a lot more to be able to take advantage of our position in the continent, considering the economic size and the population size, and to know that we initiated this accord, and we should be a leader in the accord. And for us to be a leader, we must have a very good manufacturing capacity, which currently we do not have. You cannot be exporting what you are not producing. And so part of what we need to do is, first of all, to grow the local capacity of production, both manufacturing, agriculture, and other sectors. Once we're able to have enough within our capacity, then we're going to be exporting. Right now, we are still net importers of goods, and that is not putting us in a very good position in terms of balance of trade and balance of payment.
Now you have raised some vital issues. The fear is that we are not really ready following our manufacturing capacity. That gives credence to the fear that our own economy, our environment, our market, and by extension the AFCFTA market, might just be a dumping ground for foreign goods. Would that come to pass? And if that it's a reality that is right before us. How can we do to hasten this infrastructure stuff? The federal government is making efforts with the Infraco company that is on board. What more do you think we can do, both public and private sector, to ensure that we ramp up this need for manufacturing?
You can agree with me that federal government has done a lot in agricultural sector. When you look at the statistics of what used to be, what we used to produce in agricultural sector and what we're producing today, you know that federal government has done a lot. And there has been a lot of interventions by the central bank in that regard. We haven't seen that level of effort put into manufacturing, much as they say they are doing a lot in manufacturing sector, but we haven't really had the impact in order for us to create jobs. You can see that the way you will know that you have done a lot in creating, increasing your manufacturing capacity is when you look at the unemployment rate, which currently is going up. Today we know the thing is about 33.3%. We have seen the PMI not doing so well. And so these are the various measures you use to know whether your local capacity in manufacturing is doing well or not. But having said that, I know that the country is such a country that will always rise up to competition and certain expectations. I know that when the AFCTA starts hitting the ground, in fact they have started, but then when we start seeing the impacts, when goods and services are beginning to come into the country, you also see that it's going to stir up the kind of spirit we have amongst Nigerians. But gradually, we're also seeing that with the pandemic easing off gradually, the economy is peaking, and we expect that it should peak. It is for the same reason that we exited the recession we just had towards the end of last year. So I think the economy is gradually going to be peaking because all the indices that brought us down are beginning to ease off small.
Okay, well, some of the fears you've expressed, does that explain the fact that Nigeria is more of a country that exports raw materials and import finished goods? And if that is the case, how can we ameliorate that with the export facility that is being put in place now by the NEPC, as well as the collaboration between Nexim and Afri-Exim Bank with the 50 million capacity? How can these interventions help?
Okay, I can tell you that successive governments have done a lot, well, have tried to do a lot in funding exports. But one thing that we haven't done enough in the past has been trying to create enough information, create enough awareness, and try to educate the various exporters of our country. We have a lot of raw materials we can actually say we are sending out of the country, but we are saying we can actually earn more if we use the same raw material that we have to manufacture more and get good value for our raw materials. And so when you see the activities of the various MDAs that are handling the funding and the improvement in export, you see that they are trying their best, you know, but we still need to educate more of our exporters because many of them still lack a lot of knowledge. You know, export is a major area.
Okay, talking about knowledge.
Yes.
In exports for exporters, you agreed with me that government has done a whole lot in the agricultural sector.
Yes, I said so.
What advantages do we have? What opportunities do we have in exports? And what is this knowledge that is needed by exporters for them to key into the various markets that we have out there? Right
now, when you have a currency that looks devalued, like Nigeria's currency right now, it is a time for exporters to earn so much money because the little you export, you earn foreign currency, and you come in, you have good value for your money. So I encourage Nigerians indeed for those who have been in importation and other areas to go a lot into exportation. Take advantage of the government facilities that are available right now and go into exportation. The money you make locally will obviously not get anywhere close to the kind of money you get when you start exportation because the value is there for the foreign currency that you're going to get when you export. So this is the time to go into exportation, and I encourage Nigerians to go into exportation right now. This is the time, actually, as a matter of fact.
Okay, being that this is a time that is ripe to go into exports, where is the place of value addition on our commodities that we need to take out? Standard is an issue.
Yeah, that comes to the area I talked about, information and knowledge. We've had a situation where we tried to export certain product in the past, and before it got to its destination, it was rotten. And so we need to come back again to continue to speak to ourselves and to educate our people. Even if it means having to run courses and training programs for a lot of them. The value is going to be there when people know that all that they have been farming are needed in one country or the other. Many people do not know which countries their agricultural products are needed. We have a lot of them. Of course, you know, I'm sure you must have heard the fact that somewhere outside the country we've seen bitter leaf tablets. And we said, is this thing made in tablets when we have the trees around us? You know, so there are many of our cash crops that are like that, and a lot of our raw materials, agricultural raw materials that are needed in very large quantities all over the country. But just like we say that my people perish because of lack of knowledge. Yeah, if there is no knowledge, there won't be such business opportunities. Opportunities are there all over the world. It's just for us to have the good knowledge to be able to tap from such potentials.
Okay, it is a fact that the pandemic has made us to go. A lot of businesses have gone virtual, moving from the physical, and the World Bank and IMF are calling for policy restructuring that will reflect these present realities that we are in. How can we take advantage of the fourth industrial revolution that is just by the corner?
Yeah, people are already taking advantage of it. We can see that a lot of ICT companies, this is the period of their boom. And you can also see that a lot of jobs have been created in the ICT world. So once we have this competitive advantage, we just have to harness, optimize the opportunities that are coming, and just be sure that we have these opportunities harnessed and optimized. And then look for other opportunities that exist in other sectors. Right now, it is the time of the ICT. And a lot of jobs are being created in this space, and we need to also know that the jobs that are created in the space are still very minimal compared to the opportunities that exist in this sector.
Which is to say, there is need to do more to cash into the opportunity.
Obviously.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Ike Chukwuchijoke, for sharing your thoughts with us at this particular.
Thank you very much. It's
always a pleasure.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure.
Well, moving on, gold dips as strong U.S. data sparks economic recovery hopes. Let's see how commodities are faring. Effective linkage of demand and supply of food is crucial in achieving sustainability and resilience of food security in Nigeria. This was the submission of stakeholders at the Nigerian Southwest Geopolitical Zone Exploratory Dialogue of the United Nations Food Systems Summit. Haman Zabani reports.
Ahead of United Nations Food Systems Summit, convened by United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres and scheduled to hold in September 2021, the government of Nigeria has rolled out its exploratory dialogue planned to hold in 6 geopolitical zones and major cities in Nigeria with the aim of harnessing, promising and approaching from diverse stakeholders to contribute to food system in the country. It is in the light of this that the national convener of the Nigerian Food System Dialogue and Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Olushola Idowu, and the Lagos State government are of the belief that inputs from stakeholders at the grassroots will enable government develop a plan of action for a better nutrition security.
It is my belief that the outcome of the exploratory dialogue and other dialogues will provide an opportunity for creating innovative solutions to address the confronting the Nigerian food system.
I therefore use this opportunity to appeal to our financial institutions to make funds in the form of loans and grants readily available to farmers and other stakeholders within the system to expand and implement those ideas that can make our food systems more sustainable.
Nutrition is very critical because we know what happens once children don't get the right nutrition at the right time.
It is also hoped that it will create more inclusive and healthy food system, as well as encourage a more collaborative approach towards building a sustainable food system. Hamman Germany, NTA News.
Well, transactions on the floor of the stock market today ended on a positive note compared to yesterday, where we had a negative result. The NSE All Share Index appreciated by 0.02 percentage points. The All Share Index, as we can see, ended at 38,774.03 basis points. The volume of shares, we have 356.4 million, valued at 4.1 billion naira, with deals put at 6,130. Market capitalization ended at 20.2 trillion naira. And on the top trades, we have Zenith Bank with volume with 55 million volume of shares valued at 1.1 billion naira. Sitting on the second spot is Access Bank with 38.3 million volume of shares valued at 308.5 million naira. We also have Transcorp sitting on the third spot with volume of shares put at 31.8 million naira, also valued at 24.8 million naira. Moving on, oil prices edged higher on Wednesday on the prospect for stronger global economic growth amid increased COVID-19 vaccinations, and a report that crude inventories in the United States, the world's biggest fuel consumer, fell. But optimism about talks between the United Nations and Iran over Iran's nuclear program and an impending increase in supply by major oil producers capped gains. Brent crude futures for June rose by 16 cents to $62.90 a barrel, while U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude for May was up 14 cents to close at $59.47. Prices were buoyed as data on Tuesday showed U.S. job openings rose to a two-year high in February, while hiring picked up. This followed earlier data showing improvement in the services sectors in the U.S. and China. Oil production in the U.S. is expected to fall by 270,000 barrels per day in 2021 to 11.04 million barrels per day. The Energy Information Administration, that is the EIA, said on Tuesday a steeper decline than its previous monthly forecast for a drop of 160,000 barrels per day. Well, Asia-Pacific markets mostly higher, but shares in Hong Kong and mainland China lose ground. Bosirable has details.
European stocks were muted on Wednesday as investors digest global market moves, particularly a pullback in the U.S. markets on Tuesday. European markets are facing some uncertainty Wednesday, with investors digesting moves in the U.S. markets and the latest international growth forecasts from the International Monetary Fund. Asia-Pacific market traded mostly up Wednesday, but shares on the Chinese mainland and in Hong Kong lost ground. Nikkei retraced most of its earlier gains, but still closed up 0.12% at 29,730.79. Hang Seng Index declined 0.91% to 28,674.8 as the market returned online after being closed since Friday, while the Shanghai Composite finished fractionally lower at 3,479.63. U.S. stock index futures were little changed Wednesday after the major averages finished Tuesday's session in the red. Futures contrary futures tied to the Dow Jones Industrial Average pointed to an opening gain of less than 10 points. S&P 500 futures and Nasdaq 100 futures were also flat. Most African stocks are yet to bounce back after the Easter break. Boss Today Able, Business Express.
Thank you, Bosere. And next is how Nigerian currency is exchanging for other currencies. Well, we apologize for that mix-up. That's a commodity market. On that note, this is where we end this edition of Business Express. Remember to keep in touch with us by sending in your comments, observations, and suggestions. Also be informed that all previous episodes are available on YouTube on the NTA's channel. You can also communicate with us on Twitter, and the handle is NTA News Now, and the hashtag is BizX. Business Express returns tomorrow at 3 p.m. I am Benny Adams saying, keep thinking and doing business.
Welcome to Abuja, the place that unites Nigeria. These days, people get their news and information from more media sources than ever before. Some of the news and information given are fake, unverified, doctored, and manufactured to create confusion, stir disaffection, and cause disunity. Before you believe or share any news, ask yourself, is this real? Is it from a credible source? Is it verified or verifiable? Fake news is dangerous. Whether you do it for fun or for political gains, real people can get hurt. Fake news, don't create it, don't spread it.
This is a public service announcement from NTA.
This is the network service of the NTA.